The title may remind you of a book by the late, great Douglas Adams, but I'm actually going to talk about inspiration from somewhere else, which is to deal with computing problems. And that's inspiration from nature and living things. And this is because getting to places can be difficult, even when you're using very powerful computers. And in the real world, these climbers on Mont Blanc found it was really difficult. I was looking at them at the time. But if you look at living things, even where people are walking, like me there, you find a lot of different creatures that manage to survive and a lot of different interesting complexity. And people have been trying to devise new algorithms for computers have thought about this. And the way, especially they've thought, is to think about starting not with one possible solution, but a population of possible solutions. And here's two populations which might be regarded as solutions for finding a waterhole. So one area dealing with populations I'll talk about is evolutionary computation, because this man on this slide, Charles Darwin, thought a lot about evolution, but he didn't know anything about writing software. How does evolutionary computation work? Unfortunately, I bring in here a techie slide, so please ignore all the details, but it starts with the population. Various things happen, and the idea is that you go from a large population at the beginning, you apply various processes, and you get to a solution. You have to evaluate something called fitness. What is fitness? Well, you can go to a gym and talk to a personal trainer and use machines to evaluate fitness. And it is a bit like that in evolutionary computation as well, except you're not actually in the gym. Then you can apply a selection process, which I, as a non-vegetarian, can in finding a nice piece of lamb to roast. And that can help you find a smaller population which is more effective. You've got to do a few other things possibly, which might involve, I couldn't find any images here. Crossover is something which you should know about. You take parts from different parents and mix them together, and mutation goes on all the time. It's going on in you at this moment, but hopefully not harmfully. And what is the result? I'm afraid I nicked this from a poster, so it's a bit complicated. But this was used to drive load balancing in servers by using an artificial market, not a real market, but there are some values there, and there's no real money in it. Where is evolutionary computation today? It's all over the world, but last week it was in Colorado, which would have been a nice holiday if I had the money, but in fact I missed it. There's a lot more going on there. So I'll give you a moment, because this doesn't seem... I've been thinking hard about this talk, and I hope you've been thinking as well, and that's because I'm using a brain. Brains are complicated, and here's a neuron, which is part of a neural network in the brain. This has also inspired computer scientists who've been thinking about artificial neural networks. And coming up here is a very simple artificial neural network. Think of each of these blobs as an attempt to represent a neuron in the brain, and you put inputs in on one layer, and they go through a network, and they come out the other side. The problem with artificial neural networks is they're difficult to explain. They're called black box algorithms. So here's a black box, because they're difficult to explain what's going on inside them. Another area that's attracted interest is the immune system. This is a real image from a immunology paper, so it's got a load of technical stuff in it, but the important thing is there's loads of cells, and they're helping keep you alive by attacking things that might kill you. And think of it a bit like a Space Invader game, where you might have malware attacking a computer, and an artificial immune system can defend it, because this was the original inspiration for artificial immune systems, and it has been useful. But another area to move on to is swarm intelligence. Here's a termite mound built by termites, who are a real-life form of swarm intelligence. It's a pretty big thing. Termites are small, though. But this has inspired various algorithms. Particle swarm optimization. You take virtual planes, fly them over a complex fitness landscape, and get optimization. It's not one plane. It's not me sitting inside it. And there's no real planes at all. But it does work. Another area is ant colony optimization. Here, the landscape is irrelevant. It's how the ants share tasks and get a solution to a bigger task, a bit like real ants. The trouble with swarms is they can grow to take over a 5-minute talk, and you can run out of time. So eventually you have to stop, but life goes on. So that's the end of my talk.